The prelude to Munda, Caesar's political dominance and the last stand of the Optimates. The Roman Civil War was not just a conflict between two men, Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great. It was a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the soul of Rome. By 45 BC, Caesar had already achieved what many thought impossible. He had defeated Pompey at Pharsalus, crushed the Optimates in North Africa, Thapsus, and established himself as the most powerful man in the Roman world. Yet, the war was not over. In the rugged hills of Hispania, the sons of Pompey, Gnaeus and Sextus, along with Caesar's former right-hand man, Titus Labienus, were rallying the last remnants of the Optimate resistance. This was the setting for Caesar's final campaign, the Battle of Munda. But why did this battle matter? Why did Caesar, already the master of Rome, need to march to the far corners of the Republic to crush this rebellion? The answer lies not just in military strategy, but in the political symbolism of total victory. For Caesar, Munda was not just another battle. It was the final chapter in his quest to solidify his authority and reshape the Roman world. It was a story of ambition, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of power, a story that would change the course of history. To understand the significance of Munda, we must first look at the state of Rome after the Battle of Thapsus in 46 BC. Thapsus was a crushing defeat for the Optimates, the conservative faction of the Senate that had opposed Caesar. Their leader, Cato the Younger, the embodiment of republican virtue, chose suicide over surrender. His death was a symbolic end to the old order, but it was not the end of the resistance. Cicero, the great orator and natural heir to Cato's political legacy, chose a different path. Rather than continuing the fight, he resigned himself to working within Caesar's new order. Many other senators, captured and then pardoned by Caesar, followed suit. They saw the writing on the wall. Caesar was now the undisputed ruler of Rome, but not everyone was willing to accept this new reality. The sons of Pompey, Gnaeus and Sextus, represented the last hope for the Optimate cause. They fled to Hispania, a province with deep ties to their father, Pompey the Great, who had governed it in the 50s BC. The people of Hispania, particularly the legionaries who had fought under Pompey, were sympathetic to their cause. This made Hispania the perfect staging ground for a final stand against Caesar. While the Pompeian brothers were gathering forces in Hispania, Caesar was busy in Rome. He was consolidating his power, reforming the calendar, and celebrating his victories with grand triumphs. But the news from Hispania was troubling. The Pompeians had amassed a significant force, including two legions that had defected to their side. They had also allied with local tribes, further bolstering their numbers. Caesar faced a difficult choice. Should he remain in Rome to solidify his political control, or should he personally lead the campaign in Hispania to crush the rebellion once and for all? For Caesar, the answer was clear. He could not afford to leave any loose ends. The civil war had to end decisively, and only his personal involvement could ensure that. This decision reveals much about Caesar's character. He was not content with half measures or partial victories. He understood that true power required total control, and that meant eliminating all opposition, no matter how remote or seemingly insignificant. It was this relentless drive that had brought him to the brink of absolute power, and it was this same drive that would lead him to Munda. In late 46 BC, Caesar set out for Hispania with 4 legions, including his trusted 10th Legion, veterans of the Gallic Wars. His arrival in the province marked the beginning of a grueling campaign characterized by brutal skirmishes, sieges, and tactical maneuvering. The Pompeians, led by Gnaeus Pompey and Labienus, were determined to avoid a direct confrontation. They knew that their best chance lay in prolonging the conflict, draining Caesar's resources, and waiting for an opportunity to strike. One of the key moments of this campaign was the Siege of Ategua, a strategically important town held by the Pompeians. Caesar's tactics during this siege, his use of deception, rapid movements, and psychological warfare, highlighted his brilliance as a commander. However, the Pompeians were not easily defeated. They fought fiercely, and the campaign dragged on through the winter of 46 to 45 BC. The Battle of Munda was more than just a military engagement. It was a clash of ideologies. On one side was Caesar, the populist reformer who sought to centralize power and address the Republic's deep social and economic inequalities. On the other were the Optimates, the defenders of the old aristocratic order. Munda was the final showdown between these divisions for Rome. From a strategic perspective, Munda was also a test of Caesar's ability to adapt. The Pompeians had chosen their ground carefully, positioning themselves on high ground near the town of Munda. Caesar, known for his aggressive tactics, had to balance his desire for a quick victory with the need to avoid costly mistakes. The battle would ultimately hinge on discipline, morale, and the ability to seize opportunities in the heat of combat. What makes the story of Munda so compelling is not just the military tactics or the political stakes, but the human drama that unfolded on the battlefield. This was a battle fought by men who had once been allies, even friends. Titus Labienus, Caesar's former lieutenant, was now his sworn enemy. The sons of Pompey were fighting to avenge their father, a man Caesar had once called his son-in-law. The personal stakes added a layer of tragedy to the conflict, a reminder that history is shaped not just by grand forces, but by the choices and emotions of individuals. As Caesar marched toward Munda in early 45 BC, the stakes could not have been higher. For the Pompeians, it was a fight for survival and the preservation of their cause. For Caesar, it was the final step in his journey to becoming the undisputed master of Rome. The Battle of Munda would not only decide the outcome of the civil war, but also shape the future of the Roman world. The Battle of Munda: tactics, heroism, and desperation. The Battle of Munda, fought on March 1745 BC, was one of the bloodiest and most decisive battles of the Roman Civil War. It pitted Julius Caesar, the brilliant general and populist leader, against the last remnants of the Optimate faction, led by Gnaeus Pompey and Titus Labienus. This was not just a battle for territory or political power, it was a battle for the soul of Rome. What made Munda unique was the sheer desperation on both sides. For the Pompeians, it was a last stand, a final chance to avenge their fallen leader, Pompey the Great, and restore the old order. For Caesar, it was an opportunity to eliminate his enemies once and for all and secure his place in history. The result was a brutal, hard-fought battle that tested the limits of Roman military discipline and ingenuity. The town of Munda, located in the province of Hispania Baetica, modern-day southern Spain, was chosen by the Pompeians for its strategic advantages. The town sat on high ground, with a wide plain stretching out before it. This gave the Pompeians a commanding view of the battlefield and made it difficult for Caesar to launch a surprise attack. Additionally, a stream running through the plain provided a natural barrier that could slow down Caesar's advance. Caesar, ever the tactician, recognized the challenges posed by the terrain. However, he also knew that he could not afford to delay. The longer the campaign dragged on, the more time the Pompeians had to gather reinforcements and rally support. Caesar needed a decisive victory, and he needed it quickly. According to ancient sources, the Pompeians fielded an army of around 70,000 men, including 13 legions and numerous auxiliaries. However, modern historians question these numbers, suggesting that the actual figure was closer to 40,000. Regardless, the Pompeians had a significant numerical advantage over Caesar, who commanded around 50,000 to 60,000 men, including 8 legions and 8,000 cavalry. The Pompeian army was a mix of veteran soldiers, local recruits, and allied tribesmen. While they lacked the cohesion and discipline of Caesar's legions, they were fighting on familiar terrain and were deeply motivated by their cause. For many, this was a fight for survival. Caesar's army, on the other hand, was a well-oiled machine. His legions, particularly the 5th, 6th, and 10th, were veterans of the Gallic Wars and the Civil War. They were fiercely loyal to Caesar and had a reputation for being unstoppable in battle. However, years of campaigning had taken their toll, and the legions were not at full strength. The battle opened with Caesar advancing his army onto the plain, hoping to draw the Pompeians down from their high ground. However, Gnaeus and Labienus refused to take the bait. They knew that their position gave them a significant advantage, and they were determined to force Caesar to fight on their terms. Frustrated but undeterred, Caesar ordered his men to cross the stream and advance up the hill. This was a risky move, as it exposed his troops to enemy fire and made it difficult to maintain formation. However, Caesar's confidence in his men was unwavering, as he famously declared, "This will be the end of my life and your military service," before joining the front lines. The fighting was brutal and chaotic. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, but neither was willing to give ground. The turning point came when Caesar's 10th Legion, one of his most experienced units, managed to break through the Pompeian left flank. Gnaeus was forced to shift troops from his right to reinforce the left, creating an opening for Caesar's cavalry to attack. The Pompeians, now outflanked and outmaneuvered, began to retreat. The retreat quickly turned into a rout, with thousands of Pompeian soldiers being cut down as they fled. Among the dead were Titus Labienus, Caesar's former ally, and Attius Verus, one of the Optimate leaders. Their deaths marked the end of organized resistance. Caesar's victory at Munda can be attributed to several factors. First, his ability to inspire his troops was unmatched. By joining the front lines, he demonstrated his willingness to share in the dangers of battle, boosting morale and galvanizing his men. Second, his tactical flexibility allowed him to adapt to the challenges of the terrain and the enemy's strategy. Finally, the discipline and experience of his legions proved decisive in the heat of battle. The Battle of Munda was a decisive victory for Caesar, but it came at a high cost. Thousands of soldiers on both sides lost their lives, and the province of Hispania was left devastated. For Caesar, however, the victory solidified his position as the undisputed ruler of Rome. The civil war was over, but the challenges of governing a fractured republic lay ahead. The aftermath of Munda, Caesar's triumph and the seeds of betrayal. The Battle of Munda marked the end of the Roman Civil War, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter in Roman history. Caesar's victory solidified his position as the most powerful man in Rome, but it also sowed the seeds of resentment and betrayal that would ultimately lead to his downfall. Following his victory at Munda, Caesar returned to Rome in triumph. He was hailed as a hero, and the Senate granted him unprecedented honors, including the title of dictator for life. However, not everyone was celebrating. Many senators, particularly those who had supported the Optimates, viewed Caesar's growing power with suspicion and fear. Caesar's reforms, while popular with the common people, further alienated the aristocracy. He implemented land reforms to redistribute land to veterans and the poor, reformed the calendar, and expanded citizenship to more people in the provinces. These measures were designed to address the deep social and economic inequalities that had plagued the Republic, but they also threatened the traditional power structures. Despite his efforts to reconcile with his enemies, Caesar faced growing opposition from within the Senate. Many senators, including some of his former allies, believed that Caesar's ambition posed a threat to the Republic. They feared that he would declare himself king, a title that was deeply unpopular in Rome. This opposition culminated in the conspiracy to assassinate Caesar. Led by Brutus and Cassius, the conspirators believed that by killing Caesar, they could restore the Republic. However, their actions would have the opposite effect, plunging Rome into another round of civil wars and ultimately leading to the rise of the Roman Empire. The Battle of Munda was a turning point in Roman history. It marked the end of the Republic and the beginning of the imperial era. Caesar's victory solidified his position as the most powerful man in Rome, but it also set the stage for his assassination and the eventual rise of Augustus. The Ides of March, Caesar's assassination and the fall of the Republic. The assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March 15th in 44 BC is one of the most famous events in history. It marked the end of Caesar's rule and the beginning of a new era of conflict and transformation for Rome. The conspiracy to assassinate Caesar was led by a group of senators, including Brutus and Cassius, who believed that Caesar's ambition posed a threat to the Republic. They saw themselves as defenders of the traditional Roman values of liberty and democracy, but their actions would have far-reaching consequences. On the Ides of March, the conspirators gathered in the Senate and stabbed Caesar to death. According to legend, Caesar's last words were "Et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus," a poignant reminder of the betrayal by his friend and protege. Caesar's assassination plunged Rome into chaos. The conspirators had hoped that by killing Caesar, they could restore the Republic, but instead, they unleashed a new round of civil wars. Caesar's supporters, led by Mark Antony and Octavian, later Augustus, sought to avenge his death and secure their own power. The conflict culminated in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, securing his position as the first Roman emperor. The Republic was dead, and the Roman Empire had begun. The Roman Civil War and the Battle of Munda were defining moments in Roman history. They marked the end of the Republic and the beginning of the imperial era. Caesar's victory at Munda solidified his position as the most powerful man in Rome, but it also set the stage for his assassination and the eventual rise of Augustus. The legacy of the Civil War is complex. On one hand, it brought an end to the Republic and ushered in a new era of autocratic rule. On the other hand, it laid the groundwork for the Pax Romana, a period of relative peace and stability that lasted for centuries. As we reflect on this turbulent period, we are reminded of the enduring power of ambition, betrayal, and the human desire for freedom. The story of Caesar and the Roman Civil War continues to captivate us, offering lessons and insights that resonate to this day.